Wherever there is Manchester United, there is drama, and this time it's actually come from one of their former players, Nemanja Matic. Now, Matic these days is playing for Olympique Lyon over in France. Man United, of course, are playing Lyon this week in the Europa League, and in the pre-game press conference, Matic was asked a question about Andre Onana and some of the things that he's been saying recently, and he's basically said that Onana is one of the worst goalkeepers in the history of Manchester United, which is a very interesting quote, to say the least. Very thought-provoking for sure. It's something I didn't really expect to hear out of him during that press conference. Matic was asked a lot of questions in French and responded in English, and he didn't really hold back, to be honest with you. He basically said, let me just get the exact quote here. He said, if David De Gea, Peter Schmeichel or Edwin van der Sar said that, I would question myself. But if statistically you are one of the worst goalkeepers in Manchester United's modern history, he needs to show that before he says that. Now, is Andre Onana one of the worst goalkeepers in Manchester United's modern history? Well, it depends how you define modern history, but it's an interesting one, really, because yes, he is absolutely not on the level of Schmeichel, Van der Sar, any of those guys. Absolutely not. But you look at their goalkeepers over the last 20 years or so. Is he a better goalkeeper than the likes of Thomas Kuszczak, the likes of Roy Carroll, Anders Lindegaard? Yeah, I'd probably say he is, or at least on their level, without a doubt. Tim Howard, he went on to have a massive career for the likes of Everton. Honestly, I wouldn't really put him above Tim Howard. Genuinely, very, very underrated Barclays era goalkeeper, in my opinion. No doubt whatsoever. Is he the worst goalkeeper in Manchester United's history? Well, I think that would probably have to go to the blind Venetian himself, Massimo Tai. Kids these days will not remember him, with very good reason. Like I said, he was nicknamed the blind Venetian for a reason. He had an absolute shocker in his very short stint at Manchester United. I think he was the first one that was brought in after Schmeichel, and it's like, oh, he's going to be our guy for the next 10, 20 years or whatever. It just did not work out. But yeah, I mean, Onana really is someone who has to really prove himself as Manchester United's goalkeeper. I don't doubt there's a talented player in there. He seems very good with his feet, which is obviously very important as a modern goalkeeper, but he does drop some clangers in. He really does drop some basic mistakes in. I mean, some of the guys that I mentioned just before, Ben Foster, did Ben Foster drop as many clangers in? And I didn't really play that much for Man United, but obviously a very successful goalkeeper elsewhere at the likes of Birmingham City and West Bromwich Albion, Watford as well in his career. Fine goalkeeper, really, really solid in my opinion. Onana really has the potential to do some very spectacular things in a match of football, but he also has the ability to throw the ball in his own net, unfortunately, as well. So, yeah, I would say that, Matic, I don't think he's far off the mark, really. I don't think Onana's terrible. I know that's going to be a controversial opinion, but unfortunately, he really has been the subject of a lot of this kind of pressure, really. And at times, he's made mistakes, and you can't say... He does talk a good game. Whenever you hear him in interviews, he very much does talk a good game. I like what he says, but unfortunately at times out there on the pitch he's not performing. But then again, that goes for most of the Manchester United squad as well. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to go check out the press conference actually where Matic said this, I don't normally put up press conferences from players or managers for teams outside of the UK, but I made an exception for this one. So if you head over to Microsoft, go to thefootballchronicle.com, you should be able to find that press conference from Matic in full, courtesy of UEFA. Thanks guys, always helping us out with that. Really appreciate that, and I appreciate you as well. I appreciate the support you're giving on the channel. Like, share, comment, subscribe as well if you want to see more like this, and have a fantastic day guys. See you very soon.